I am Fernando Alvarez. For the next week, I will make a film based on the sounds in this house. I am interested in all kinds of sounds, in any noise that can be captured on tape. Whenever I find anything that sounds interesting, I imagine how it could be used in a film. Sometimes I make recordings simply out of curiosity. And sometimes I seize the opportunity when things have to be done. Sometimes appliances don't do what I expect them to do. And sometimes I don't even know what I'm doing. Sometimes I have to interrupt my routine because the sounds are too interesting. This is the house where the scene of our film was made. I chose this country location because it is a good place to record interesting sounds. This place is also a great location, which was important in deciding which sounds I will need for my film. Having a dungeon available was very useful because it allowed me to represent a place as large or as small as I wanted. Being in the dark also has the potential to make the imagination run wild. The scene in the dungeon needed the appropriate atmosphere to represent a feeling of isolation from the rest of the house. I always found this sound interesting because it creates an eerie atmosphere in this house, which is the reason why the occupants of this place don't like this sound at all. This sound was appropriate because it made me imagine a large system working under the house. In the world of fiction, the noise would have made it difficult for a cry for help to be heard. This image was used to represent the encounter between the two characters in the story. I needed a sound to signify that after that moment, life would never be the same. This sound is interesting because of what happens in the simple act of applying a cleaning substance. The acid of the spray creates a bubbling effect, which is identified by the human ear as an irritant and potentially nasty substance. The motion of the hand, which is necessary to cover different areas in the stove, originated interesting variations in sound that gave a living quality to the character in our story. This sound has another great characteristic, because the hollow space underneath the stove element combined with the pressurized air coming from the can, created a system very similar to the human oral cavity, which is responsible for voice production. The result is similar to a human whisper. We can always explore new possibilities with the help of technology. Some editing programs have built-in preset settings which allow to manipulate sounds in creative ways. It is also necessary to make adjustments on volume and noise reduction to adapt our recording to the purpose of the scene. We can also use the same recording with different equalization in several parts of the film. The recording undergoes a final process in which the overall levels of the entire audio sample are brought to the maximum volume before distortion occurs. Once the process is complete, we verify our result and apply it to the clip in our scene. Some of the sound effects in the sequence were accidents not intended for the project. The results were better than I expected. Next is an example of finding an appropriate sound to create a dramatic ending to the scene. This take was intended to build suspense to the story. One approach to sonic art is to build up complexity from ordinary things, but some sounds are interesting from the beginning. The complexity of this sound is an asset because we can always expect interesting results after undergoing even basic manipulation. This sound was promising for the scene because it responded to electronic processing by giving a living quality in return. Without music and sound effects, movies wouldn't be the same. This is what inspired me to become a music composer, which has allowed me to study the field of electronic music and sound design. As a composer of electronic music, I capture sounds and transform them into sound effects. The sounds in this film come from the most unexpected sources. In this documentary, I want to demonstrate that the electronic transformation of sound can turn watching a film into a frightening experience.